There was an open tag started by, I believe, Patty's Potato Peelers called Wee Little Big Knives. So first I'm going to show you some knives that I consider not to be meeting of the requirements of this tag. The requirements of this tag was to be a small knife that you can open up, and the stipulation was that your finger can reach the end of the blade. Now first, we'll take a look at this Puma. This is a really old knife. It was very badly ground, but can a knife like this be a wee little big knife? Well, if I look at it, it's not even quite a true 3-finger grip. And yes, while your finger is easy to reach the end of the blade, you just can't get a good enough grip on this to actually do work with it. And so that's the reason I say this will not work, because it's not just a wee little knife, it's a wee little big knife. And the big part of that stipulation I interpret to mean a knife that you can hold on to and you can actually do work with, a handle that's not fatiguing. That brings us to this Case Swayback. This is a small one. Very nice utility blade. No problem reaching the end of it. And the grip could be a little bit longer. It's not quite long enough. You don't quite get 4 fingers on there. Even choked up onto the kick. So, I'm gonna say this knife is also a fail. Yes, you can open boxes with this. You can, if you just have a single box or so to break down, you can break it down with this. You can open up your mail with this. You can cut up some of your food, but it's too thin to get a really good grip on, and your hand will get tired if you're using this for anything more than just a quick cut. Brings us to the next class of knives. This is a Rosecraft, and this model is called the French Broad. This is a beautiful knife. Again, if I get up on the kick, no problem reaching the tip. But this suffers from the same thing as the Case. Even though this knife gives you a full grip, you can see it's flush with the end of my hand, that handle is too thin, and this will be fatiguing in use. Again, I put this as just for doing occasional cuts. So that doesn't satisfy the big part of the requirement for me. Next, we'll take a look at a canoe. This is a Queen in the saw cut bone. Now on the canoe knife, we'll use the larger blade. Again, very easy to reach the tip, even get way over. So the canoe knife meets the little part of it, and especially if I go up in the kick, choke up a little bit, I get a full grip on it, and now it's just starting to get tall enough where you can see how much this isn't nearly as tall. We're getting into a handle that's sized big enough. It's still on the small side, but it's sized big enough that you can do some heavy duty cutting with it and not have your hand get tired and fatigued that quickly. And then to satisfy the small part even further, you have a secondary blade. Next, a mini trapper. This is one buffalo horn with S35 VN blades. This one is put together pretty nicely. You don't see any gaps or anything in this knife. Again, this one, if you go up in the kick area, you're very easy to reach the tip of that blade. So this meets the tiny part of it, the wee little knife part. Now, as far as the handle goes, get up on the kick. Again, I have a full grip. It comes flush with the end of my pinky. And this being a little thicker, this is a handle that I can hold on to, and I can do a lot of work with this knife. And you have 2 blades. You have the clip point, and then you have a really nice Warren Cliff that comes down to a skinny point that's an excellent utility blade. So this really meets the definition. This is where it starts to get good. But the best example I have of a wee little big knife is this Cold Steel Tough Light. To me, this is the knife that really satisfies all the requirements of this tag. You can see how much bigger the grip is than on any of these knives. And when you open the blade becomes part of the handle. It's got a little guard here so you don't get cut by that corner. A lot of blades, the point just comes right to the back and you have a really sharp point here. And I don't know. Those choils don't seem to work with me. I mean, my fingers are not fat, but I always seem to get my finger into place where it would get cut by that point of the blade. So I really like knives that have that little guard when they have a choil. But this lets you get a full grip on it. It's a nice, big, fat, tall handle. Very comfortable in hand. You have some jimping up here. So this knife can really get a lot of work done, and your hand will be very comfortable and not fatigued while you're doing it. So this Cold Steel Tough Light and several other knives that are a very similar style are the best example there is of a wee little big knife.